on the Comcast Business
He better
Hotline
be.
right now.
We know he is.
Kevin, Birds taking home a victory this Sunday, right?
I hope so, yeah. But we all know we grew up in Philadelphia. We understand the Philadelphia experience. Anything could happen. But I feel good in this game. To be honest with you, I don't like how good I feel because it's just something you're not used to going into the playoffs, and especially with the Jalen Hurts, the whole concussion protocol for the last 2 weeks, it just makes you a little bit leery on do they change their style? Will they be calling a lot more passing plays instead of, hey, QB keeper, the little RPO, and then the tush push? But I still feel really good because I think on all three phases, the Eagles match up really well. I haven't felt this good about an Eagles defense in a very long time. So going into this one, especially with the Packers beat up, Christian Watson out, which is huge, and Jordan Love not 100%, it makes me feel confident, but at the same time, always nervous.
Would I say that Kevin Negandhi has gotten something given to him by the Eagles organization that has never happened before? That you've got a team that appears to be across-the-board dominant, appears to be one of the NFL favorites to win a Super Bowl, and also appears to finally have a chance to maybe sustain this thing for a long time. This is a young club. Youngest defense in the NFL.
Howie's done a great job. We saw that specifically in the last few years where they've targeted defensive guys through the draft. And John, you've got to do this. I mean, look at the Chiefs' recipe for success. You pay the quarterback. You pay the tight end. You pay these max deals. You pay one or two guys on the defensive side, and then you got to draft well, right?
Yep.
The team that the Eagles lost to in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago featured a very young Chiefs secondary, and they hit on draft picks. And look what the Eagles have done. They hit on draft picks, and over the last 2 to 3 years, they've built this team streamlining through draft picks and some free agents. And that's the key here because you're going to pay your two wide receivers. You're going to pay your quarterback. You're going to pay your running back. Got to pay a couple of guys on the offensive line to secure them long term. And ultimately, you're going to have to pay Jalen Carter. So I think they've done a great job. That's why that window is always important when you get that first contract with a quarterback, if you hit on them, where you can find guys, fill the roster up, and then ultimately you got to pay the quarterback, and now you got to hit on the draft. It changes the other way around. And Howie's done a phenomenal job of making sure that roster is, complete. The Zach Vaughn stuff plays a huge role here, guys. It feels like he's the connector and the glue of this entire defense, and they nailed the free agent acquisition. And because a lot of that also plays into Vic Fangio playing a role to Howie to saying, let's bring him in, I'll find a way. And actually, he could play a bigger role than just a special teams star. And we've seen it, man. And I think he's going to play a critical role here when you look at Josh Jacobs and Josh Jacobs getting in the short field for, dump passes for Jordan Love to help him. And Vaughn's going to play a major role for the success of this team if they want to have a deep run.
Now, Kevin, you brought up Jordan Love a little bit there at the end. You get the national perspective. So where's then there been more angst placed? On the Jalen Hurts concussion situation or the Jordan Love throwing arm injury?
It's not so much, Connor, it's not so much about Jordan Love's injury. It's the national vibe that I've gotten from guys has been, can you trust Jordan Love? Because, again, I think Jordan Love is the future of the league. He's a phenomenal player. We saw that in what he did that deep run last year in the playoffs. But he makes one or two throws where you're like, and that's lack of experience, but also that leads to his success, right? He's a gunslinger. He's got a little Favre in him, and he wants to make the play in the pass so bad that sometimes he forces the ball. And I think that that comes through maturity, a lot of reps, and right now I think there's a lot of guys out there that when they view the Packers as what Jordan Love are we going to see? Is he going to make 2 or 3 bad throws, and can the Eagles capitalize off those throws with the turnovers?
Kev, if I said to you right now you could pick the Eagles' path that would end them in New Orleans, so obviously that would start with a win over the Packers. What would you want to see as the next 2 steps that you feel would give them the best chance to end up on Bourbon Street?
So I got to be honest with you guys. Like, I don't want to see the Bucs. I just don't.
I agree with you that would be a scary matchup.
It would, and the confidence that Baker has, that offense. I mean, Jalen McMillan has slid right in, the third-round pick from Washington, the wide receiver, for explosive plays. Bucky Irving. Dan Orlovsky was on NFL Live. I hosted it yesterday. Dan Orlovsky made a comment that I was like, oh, okay. With his hands, catching how he will. I think the Bucs are a dangerous team when you have a confident Baker Mayfield, and Todd Bowles is still a wizard as a defensive guy. And let's not forget, Nick Sirianni and this Eagles team and Jalen Hurts, they have a Super Bowl run, but it's bookended with first-round exits to the Buccaneers. And so I just don't want to face the Bucs right now in that second round. I'd rather face the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. And now if Jaden Daniels is in round number 2, that the confidence for a quarterback like him is going to be soaring high. When you look at personnel and the matchups, I prefer to face the Commanders a third time compared to facing the Bucs a second time. And I don't count that first matchup in the regular season against the Bucs because the defense was trying to figure things out, and that felt like the fourth preseason game, right? And they were a different team after the bye. So I'd like to just kind of erase that game. But to me, more than anything else, when you look at the matchup against the Bucs, Bowles has figured out how to make sure that Jalen Hurts runs to his left and forces him to throw. And Jalen's not comfortable doing that. And we've seen it in those 2 playoff games. And I wouldn't want to face that again.
All right, now, Kevin, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up because there are a lot of people in this area that really care about this football game happening.
All of Delco.
In the college ranks today. Notre Dame, Penn State. Talk to me about that matchup a little bit from your perspective.
It's going to be old school, guys. We talk about how the quarterback has changed the position and changed the way we look at football over the last 15 years. The 2 games you're going to watch over the next 2 days in the playoff semifinals will be about defense and can you run. Specifically tonight, these 2 teams are mirror images of each other, Penn State and Notre Dame. Can you run? Can your defense play the role to change the game? So, for me, Drew Aller's got to make 3 to 5 throws, big throws. And we need Drew Aller, if you're a Penn State fan, to look like what he did in the Big Ten championship game, not the last 2 games, because Notre Dame's defense on all 3 levels are really good. Now, they're a little beat up defensively on the front line, but, man, they are so well coached. Marcus Freeman has done a tremendous job during this win streak. Riley Leonard's got to throw for over 100 yards if you're a Notre Dame fan. You can't escape less than 100 yards. I think he had 90 yards against Georgia, and they out-Georgia in that win in the Sugar Bowl. So, to me, this game comes down to Abdul Carter's health. I think he's a game changer. I know he's dealing with an arm injury, and can he force Riley Leonard to make mistakes and explosive plays? Listen to this stat, guys, for Notre Dame. It's amazing, especially in this era. Notre Dame in the last 4 games, last week in their last game, 98-yard touchdown return, punt return. The previous game, Jeremiah Love, 98-yard touchdown run. And then the previous game against USC, they had a 99-yard pick six and a 100-yard pick six. So I'm talking about 3 plays of 98 yards or more that did not involve the quarterback. It's a fascinating thing when you talk about Notre Dame and how they find ways to score. So Tyler Warren's got to make some explosive plays for Drew Aller to expose a little bit of that defense. We'll see if they could do it. I think this game comes down to a potential field goal, as you see the line at 1.5. And Marcus Freeman coaching. This is James Franklin's biggest game of his college career. And if he gets over the hump, who would have thought Penn State would be playing in the national championship?
Yeah, well, it's a game all of Delco has been waiting patiently for all week. So appreciate you breaking that down for us, Kev. And appreciate all the great work you've been doing covering all of that for ESPN. Thank you for the time. And
Thanks,
we'll talk to you next week after the Eagles beat the Packers.
Fellas, be good. Go Birds.
Go Birds, indeed. Kevin Negandhi on the Comcast Business Hotline of ESPN, giving us a bit of a check-in there on the college ranks. And he's confident on the Birds as well. I do want to remind you, you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN, and WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. So coming up next, We'll react to what Kevin had to say about the Birds. You know what? Interesting on the confidence meter. I might have expected a little bit more from him.
Yeah, he's not in the ballpark with me. I'm already moving on to next week.
So have we?
Thank you so much for checking out our content on the 97.5 The Fanatic YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, you can always be checking the playlist. There may be something you missed from one of our shows during the day that you want to go back and check out. So every time you like a video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and you'll have that great content coming to you every single day. You're greatly appreciated.